Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're stepping far away from the familiar pop culture vampires you're probably used to, and we're diving straight into the misty, melancholic shadows of 1872. We're going to uncover a forgotten, deeply complex monster who completely changed Gothic fiction forever. Her name is Carmilla, and she is, without a doubt, the true mother of modern Gothic horror. Imagine being a Victorian reader and encountering this kind of intimate, nocturnal terror. It completely caught them off guard. This isn't some monstrous beast crashing through a window. Instead, it's a teenage vampire, Carmilla, preying upon her unsuspecting friend, right inside the supposed safety of a bedroom. It perfectly captures the chilling, breathless atmosphere of Sheridan Le Fanu's revolutionary novella. Now, author LindaAnn points out something absolutely crucial in her insightful essay on the topic. Carmilla actually predated Bram Stoker's famous Dracula by a full 25 years. Just think about that timeline for a second. Decades before the Count ever arrived in London, Le Fanu introduced a sexually autonomous, highly complex female predator to a completely unsuspecting Victorian society. It was a massive, incredibly unsettling departure from the norm. So where did Le Fanu get this dark inspiration? Well, he actually built on the romantic literary foundations of poets who came before him. We're talking specifically about Samuel Taylor Coleridge's Christabel and John Keats' La Belle Dame sans Merci, both of which featured these powerful, mysterious women with true sexual autonomy. By weaving those specific threads into a vampire narrative, Le Fanu completely flipped the rigid patriarchal rules of his era to craft a highly subversive, unforgettable villainess. You see, back then, your traditional Victorian literary villains, even in Le Fanu's own earlier work, were typically haughty, corrupt, and straightforwardly evil aristocrats. Think judges, earls, powerful men. But Carmilla, she was a total curveball. She was this sluggish, depressed loner displaying symptoms of extreme emotional neediness and a desperate craving for connection. Modern readers might even recognize traits of borderline personality disorder in her. She wasn't just a monster. She was psychologically complex. Because of that, Le Fanu's masterpiece wasn't just some simple ghost story designed for a quick scare. Beneath the surface, it functioned as a highly sophisticated psychological study wrapped in 3 distinct layers of Victorian subversion. We're going to break these down because they're essential to understanding exactly why Carmilla matters. We have the political allegory, the social class critique, and her enduring role as a queer literary touchstone. Let's start with the political layer. A lot of scholars view the story's setting, rural Styria in Austria, as a coded political allegory for Victorian Ireland. In this reading, Carmilla represents the seductive danger of English nobility. She charms the Anglo-Irish elite, which perfectly mirrors how the narrator Laura's expatriate father completely ignores every glaring warning sign about Carmilla, simply for the sake of the prestige she offers. It's a brilliant metaphor for toxic political alliances that end up exploiting the vulnerable. Next up, the novella delivers a wonderfully dark, sharp critique of social class, and we see this directly through Carmilla's deeply unsettling hunting methods. Peasant girls, they're quickly throttled and drained of blood in flashes of brutal, fast violence. But meanwhile, noble women like Laura are slowly, methodically seduced and courted over long periods of time. It's a really chilling commentary on how violence and exploitation operated very differently across the strict social strata of Victorian society. Finally, we have to look at the queer literary aspect. Modern theorists view Carmilla not just as a toxic, manipulative predator, though let's be real, she certainly is that, constantly touching Laura without permission and making these intense, possessive threats. But she's also seen as a pitiable victim. Her vampirism is viewed as the tragic result of severe isolation and patriarchal repression in the Victorian world. Unable to express her desires openly, she literally has no choice but to become monstrous. It leaves you, the reader, profoundly uncomfortable, caught right between horror and deep sympathy. And it's exactly this profound moral ambiguity, creating a monster we pity yet know we must ultimately destroy, that brings us to her striking modern resurrection. In author LindaAnn 2025 poem, When Carmilla Returns, Styria is Different, from her collection Vampire Verses, this 19th century vampire is pulled straight from the past and dropped squarely into the isolated modern pandemic era. The imagery Losciavo uses here is just incredibly vivid. COVID reminded her of the Black Death, fatalities unfolding silently, as muslin shrouds, infecting secretly. Plunged into a modern lockdown, our 19th century vampire awakens from bleak dreams. Deprived of uninterrupted sleep and sensing filth in her lungs, she wakes up to a stilled world where a pox has blanketed the air with the toxic rot and aftertaste of disease. And yet, Even though the world has drastically changed, her core nature hasn't. The poem reads, ceaseless pursuit of youthfulness whose price is stolen blood, warm red wealth that buys time. Her urgent thirst remains her eternal curse. Without it, she's described as being the color of waiting. I just love that phrasing. It's a ceaseless pursuit fueled by stolen blood, described so evocatively as this warm red wealth required to buy time and keep her from fading away into the unhealthy breeze. Navigating through this ghostly, diseased Styria, which is now full of disused tram stops and shop signs peeling away like tattered skin, she finally finds her vulnerable prey. Old beech trees loomed like ghostly chaperones. A curtain flutters like a helpless moth, reveals a sleeping, pink-cheeked blonde, alone. It's this brilliantly eerie, classic Gothic setup, perfectly transplanted into an isolated, modern quarantine setting. And here is where the psychological complexity of Le Fanu's original creation just shines brilliantly through in Lo Schiavo's modern verse. She hypnotizes, casting sly shadows, shaped like her victim's most unrealized desires, then enters cloaked in this disguise. Just as she did with Laura way back in 1872, the modern Carmilla seamlessly manipulates the unrealized desires of her isolated victim. It goes to show that the psychological power of this intimate predator entirely transcends time. She knows the contract she's made with hunger, and she certainly knows the power of beauty. So as this explainer reveals, Carmilla's legacy is truly defined by her absolute refusal to offer us easy answers. Whether she's stalking the patriarchal pages of Victorian literature or lurking in the shadows of a modern pandemic lockdown in vampire verses, she remains a dark mirror to our own vulnerabilities. I'll leave you with this thought to mull over. In a world continually ruled by unfathomable appetites, why do we remain so eternally seduced by the monsters who reflect our own deepest, darkest desires?